Boiii! Hello and welcome, this is your Trophy Boy. But why am I called that way?
It's simple. My parents just had a very sick sense of humor.
But with a legal birth name like that, I had a hard time to live up to that pressure that has been bestowed upon me. I was never good at sports and I could never get a medal, let alone a trophy. I was desperate and depressed. But then the PlayStation 3 came along and I finally was able to get trophies in something I was actually decent at: playing video games. Now, I am absolutely aware that trophy hunting,
Or achievement hunting if you're from the other side,
is a niche. Not a lot of people do it, and some do it for different reasons. That's why I wanted to explain why I like it so much, why I feel the need to complete the trophy percentage of a game, and also why I sometimes dread that I took this path as a gamer. Here are 5 pros and cons of being a trophy hunter. I know what you're thinking. The verdict I heard the most when talking to other people about gaming trophies is that they think gamers who collect them just want to compete in a virtual pissing contest. They think it's about ego, about showing off, about having more than other people, showcasing how you are the better gamer, and just basically pulling out your virtual gamer dick for comparison because you think it is bigger than everybody else's.
Pardon the graphic metaphor here, but I am from Austria and in the German language there actually is a term called Schwanzvergleich. Google it! Or, come to think of it, don't.
Now, I can only speak for myself here, but I am not doing it for anyone else but me. Sure, sometimes it is interesting to look at someone else's profile to see what games they have played and how far they stuck to it, but that is not the reason why I complete the games I play. I like to finish games for myself. I enjoy completing games because I get the feeling of accomplishment when I see that precious 100%. It's not so much the illusion of having been productive, but the confirmation that you also accomplished something in your spare time. Gamers are not lazy. They make quick decisions all the time, complete complex tasks, strengthen their spatial perception, and react in real time.
You just completed a game on extreme difficulty? Well done, you just sharpened your cognitive tools. Here's the proof.
So yeah, my trophies do make me feel good about myself, but not to show off or compare them with anyone else's. And here's the next pro. When I finish the game, I have the feeling I really pulled everything out of it. When you just play through the story mode once, have you really experienced all the bits and pieces that game had to offer? Did you really get your money's worth if you just completely ignore the challenges the developers put in there? If you ignore the harder difficulty settings or the NG Plus mode that might feel like a different game? So what I really like about completing a game, especially if you include the DLC trophies as well, which you absolutely should, is that I am more often than not forced to deal with aspects of a game I would otherwise completely ignore.
Or, only scratch the surface to the bare minimum the game requires me to finish the story.
The prime example that comes to mind here are the gummy ship missions in the first Kingdom Hearts game. In the main Kingdom Hearts titles, you travel from one world to the next by traversing space in a so-called gummy ship. These sort of mini-games always were annoying, and as out of place as Starblade that was used as the loading screen game for Tekken 5. Kingdom Hearts is a fun RPG adventure full of colorful characters, animated Disney realms, and cringy dialogues, but what does an obligatory mode that feels like the retro game Asteroids have to do with it? So if you played the original Kingdom Hearts on PS2, you were well in your right to never play this mode after using it for travel purposes. But if you want the Platinum Trophy in the remastered edition on one of the later PlayStation console models, you will need to complete all of the gummy ship missions on level 3. So you really need to learn how all of this works. And after having done it, I have to say, I liked finally understanding what the developers were thinking when they created this.
It's like a different game! Is it better or even as good as the actual game? Not even close.
But thanks for showing me through the required trophies. And there are a lot of other examples on this too, like completing Neo on Way of the Demon, which is NG+2, where a lot of other enemies appear and the game feels substantially different. I remember a comment under a Neo related YouTube video that said if you have not played the game on Way of the Demon mode, you really have not played Neo the way you're supposed to. And after having done that, I agree. So yeah, trophies can make us experience a game to the fullest, which is not always a good thing. So here's the first negative aspect of being a trophy hunter. You often have to do something you absolutely do not want to do. This includes mostly things like farming, luck-based trophies, or leveling up just for the sake of leveling up. I get it, if you play an RPG, farming is a gameplay element that is just part of the package, and it can be fun. I remember getting all the required materials in Kingdom Hearts to synthesize every item, where you had to defeat every type of Heartless and play minigames with the mushrooms. The drop rates felt fair, it was interesting, and you got cool items out of it to make endgame content easier or even possible to begin with. But take Kingdom Hearts Rechain of Memories.
Same franchise, same developers, even on the same bloody disc.
And you had to get both Sora and Riku to level 99, although when you finished the story normally, you would be maybe something like level 40 or 50-ish. What was even more broken on that game was that completing the story on one of the higher difficulty settings didn't unlock the trophies for completing it on the lower ones, which is pretty much common rule. So you had to complete this game both with Sora and Riku on easy, normal, and hard mode.
Yeah, a total of 6 playthroughs. Who would do such a silly thing? Trophy hunters would.
And this leads right into the next negative point of being a trophy hunter. Once you finish the game, you never want to play it again. Don't get me wrong here, I still play games because I love them. I am not the type of extreme trophy hunter that puts the trophies above the fun. Meaning, I do not only buy shitty easy platinum games and complete them in their European, American, Japanese and Korean version to get 4 platinum trophies out of one game I never even enjoyed to begin with. There are people like that out there, and not even that few. To each their own, I guess, but I still want to play games I want to play. In my list of way over 200 games, I maybe have around 30 easy platinum games tops that I only played for the stupid fun of earning an easy plat in a ridiculously short amount of time. But generally, I do not play games for trophies, I get trophies for the games I like to play.
But that little OCD tendency in my head that tells me I need to complete them to 100%, that part of my brain also tells me that when it's done, it's done.
Being in the middle of a game, it always feels like an unfinished task on your to-do list. That's why it's so nice to complete them. But yeah, like I said before, when you're done, you're done. I remember being a kid without the financial capacity of buying new games all the time. I played my favorite handful of games over and over again. There haven't even been trophies for them yet. This behavior is unthinkable to me now, which I sometimes regret. But having checked off a game, so to speak, especially if there have been some tedious bits in there as well, I don't want to go back to it. That's why I like DLC trophies, because they give me a reason to jump back into something I loved. But most of the time, I will never touch a game again once it's completed. Let's jump back into positive aspects again. If you have completed a game, sometimes chances are you really do get something for it. This happens much too rarely, but sometimes you will get a special PlayStation avatar if you have got the platinum in a particular game. This happens with some PlayStation exclusive titles. I got the one for Spider-Man and Detroit Become Human, but what I went with is God of War because it was the hardest one to get.
I really like this amazing game and I'm so excited for when the next installment comes out on PS5 in the hopefully not too distant future.
So I think it is really nice to get something for your effort, even if it's a tiny tidbit like that. Also, this past December, there had been an advent calendar from PlayStation Germany where all the trophies you earned were put into credits you could use to get tickets for a raffle to win something each day of December up until Christmas Eve. So even when it's small things, it is nice when you get something other than the trophy itself for collecting trophies.
Because then you have something to show your grandma when she nags about how video games are just a waste of time.
It's stuff like that when trophy hunters feel appreciated by the community. And speaking of a great community, that's another advantage. Trophy hunters might not be the majority of players, but they are a friendly bunch. Another example of how we are not just showing off and competing with everybody else is how much help you can get from other trophy hunters. There are groups out there, tons of guides, most people write unsalaried in their spare time, and of course YouTube channels like this one. We do not want to get difficult trophies just for ourselves or to ace other people out. We share our victories, our knowledge, our strategies. And it's great to be a part of such a passionate community. Where you might need help as well is choosing what game to play next. And here's another downside of it all. When you are a trophy hunter, it really costs you quite an effort to commit to a new game.
For me at least, when I get one trophy, I have to pull through the entire game.
As you might know, if you haven't earned any trophies in the game yet, you can delete it from your trophy list. But trying out a new game without getting a single trophy is pretty much impossible, because most games give you some trophies very early on to get yourself motivated. Completed a tutorial? Here's a bronze trophy for your effort. Deadpool even gives you a trophy just for standing up and a second one for being pretty. Maybe trophy choices like these were designed for people like me to immediately hook you onto them. But this also means before you even buy a new game in the first place, you search the internet studying what it would take to finish it and pondering whether or not you should even play it to begin with. All trophy guides out there show you the average time needed to get the platinum or 100% and how difficult it is on a scale from 1 to 10. Additional infos are if there are any bug trophies who could potentially ruin your completion, or if there are any missable ones. Meaning if you don't do a specific thing at a specific time in your playthrough, you would have to start a completely new game to get it.
And also very important, are there any online trophies? Back in my PlayStation 3 days, these were the types of trophies I just would not do.
And I know a lot of people still avoid these. Online multiplayer trophies where you need to compete against other people with human brains that work oh so differently than the AI you are used to fighting. I hear you. Luckily, there are also a lot of online trophies out there that are not PvP, but where you and other real people play together against the PvE content. But long story short, as a trophy hunter, you will take a lot of time before you even dare starting a new game, and let's face it, there are just a lot of them out there you will deliberately miss out on. Which brings me to the fourth negative aspect: ignoring games you would really like to play. Sometimes I find the premise of a game really interesting, or the visuals stunning, or for whatever reason I just want to try out or, play a specific game. But then, studying the respective trophy list, I know I cannot do it. For example, I heard that Duck Game was a really fun co-op game, but there is one bug trophy that will never be fixed, so the Platinum trophy is impossible to achieve.
That's a nope from me.
Or even more agonizing, I really wanted to join in the fun last summer when the whole world was playing Fall Guys Ultimate Knockout. I loved the silly design and the Takeshi's Castle vibes. It looked so incredibly fun to play, and I was so extremely mad at developers for including the Infallible trophy. If you don't know, Fall Guys is a game with deliberately weird controls, so it's harder and funnier. It is played online exclusively against up to 60 players in one lobby at the start. Each match consists of 5 rounds where you can be eliminated anytime. So just imagine how hard it would be to reach the finish line in all the rounds, let alone win an entire match.
And for that particular trophy you need to win 5 matches in a row. in a row! It's extremely hard to even win one time, let alone 5 times, but in a row? That is virtually impossible.
And the developers knew that. They have said it themselves. They just put it in because they thought it was funny because no one would get it. Joke's on them, because some people have got it and some people like myself never gave them a penny of our money. Although I would really have wanted to. I'm still mad. My penultimate entry, and the last one of the negative aspects of being a trophy hunter, is that you sometimes cheat a little. Nothing too shady, I complete my games legitimately and everything, but what I want to address here specifically is using a save file more than once to save time. What do I mean? I told you earlier that I do not replay any games after completion, and a huge part of that also is that there are so many great games out there. If you're not only chasing the expensive AAA titles, there are a ton of amazing indie games and everything in between.
My pile of shame gets smaller and larger from time to time, but it's never gone. I always have new games in the pipeline.
And although it is always stressful to start a new one, you always want to start a new one. But sometimes games with multiple endings need you to get to all of those. I'm specifically thinking of Bloodborne here, but there have been other instances where I did this as well. For Bloodborne, there are 3 possible endings. You need all of them to get the platinum. First, you need to accept Gehrman's offer and not fight him. Second, you have to refuse his offer and fight him. And third, you have to fight him after consuming at least 3 umbilical cords, which you can find across the game. So if you want to do this the real honest way, you beat the game 3 times, up until NG+2.
I didn't.
And a lot of other people didn't either. What you do as a trophy hunter is collecting 3 umbilical cords and then saving before interacting with Gehrman. You upload your save file to the cloud or onto a USB flash drive. And then you accept the offer. Ending 1. Quit the game, overwrite the save file with your previous one. This time, fight. Ending 2. Overwrite the save again, consume the umbilical cords, get ending number 3. On the first new game, with saving you tons of hours. It's not that I couldn't have done it legitimately, I got the platinum in all the Souls games, and the other ones force you to actually play them all the way through. Dark Souls 2 made 3 Covenant spells you needed only available to buy on NG+2. Sekiro did a great thing as well. There were 4 endings, but 2 branches of the story had different bosses. And there is 1 trophy for needing to have defeated all bosses, meaning you needed those victories on 1 save file. So you had to complete it twice, but you could take the aforementioned shortcut for the 3rd and the 4th one. Mea culpa. I'm just doing this to be able to play more games! So let's end on a positive note. I love games. I want to spend my spare time playing games. And every time I see that icon pop up and hear that bling, I get a feeling of joy. Like one of Pavlov's classical conditioned dogs, when he rang the bell, I immediately begin to drool every time I hear that bling. In this fast-paced, success-oriented day and age, where you hardly get any praise or compliments for anything you do, it is nice to get at least some minor virtual accolade once in a while. Depending on how challenging getting the particular trophy was I just got, I get a smaller or larger dopamine-induced pat on the back from my nervous system. But it's always nice. And isn't that just something great in and of itself? So it's like doing something you enjoy and feel that some extrinsic entity approves. But these are just my feelings. How about you? Do you enjoy going for the occasional platinum, or do you ignore trophies altogether? Have you been guilty of overwriting a save file yourself to achieve something specific within a game? If you liked that video, click the like button, subscribe for more and hit the notification bell to always stay on the pulse of time. Thank you for watching, tell your friends, and I'll see you next time.